and welcome back to our Geography Revision series. And this is the part 2 where we continue exploring the fascinating topics about river systems and hydrological cycle. Building on part 1, this revision will focus on applying your knowledge to exam style questions and understanding how river systems connect to the wider hydrological cycle. So let's strengthen your understanding and get you one step closer to acing your geography exam. This question is from the May-June 2024 paper 12 of the IGCSE Geography, and the question is: explain why transpiration varies from time to time. Meaning to say, you have to know what's the meaning of transpiration and why transpiration varies or different from time to time. You see, transpiration is how plants lose water. So it's all about the plants. When plants lose water through the tiny holes in their leaves, and the tiny holes in their leaves are called stomata. So the water turns into vapor and goes into the air. So when that happens, it helps plants to stay cool and move water and nutrients from their roots to their leaves. The question is, why do you think that this process of how the plants lose water from their leaves different from time to time? And again, the task is for you to explain. Okay, and when we say explain, it means you have to make something clear. There should be a clarity or easy to understand by describing it in detail, or you can break it down into simple terms. um, it's all about helping someone understand something better. So the question is, you have to explain why transpiration is varies or different from time to time. You can include first the meaning of transpiration, and then after that, another sentence is transpiration changes depending on different conditions. So, meaning to say that there are factors involved why transpiration is different. It can vary with temperature. So I put it in the red markings. Sunlight or how much water is in the soil. The time of the year matters too, as some seasons have more plants or plants that lose their leaves, and other factors such as humidity, wind speed, and air pressure, which affects how much water plants release. So it means that you have to enumerate, you have to include the different factors. There are several factors that affect the transpiration. The first is temperature, the sunshine, the light. Why? Because when heat speeds up the evaporation, remember the term evaporation, from the plant's leaves, it makes them lose the water faster. So, bright sunlight also opens up the tiny pores in the leaves, also known as stomata. So, it further increases the water loss. The second factor is the amount of precipitation, or the amount of water in the soil. So, if there's plenty of water in the soil, then plants can absorb more through their roots and release it into the air through the transpiration. So, less water in the soil means less to lose. And the third is more plants at certain times of the year, especially during seasons such as spring and summer. So during spring and summertime, more plants are actively growing and transpiring. Because with many plants releasing water into the air, the overall moisture in the environment also increases. The fourth factor is the type of plant or type of leaves. Because some plants have large, some big, thin leaves that really lose water easily, while others have some small or waxy leaves that conserve water. So different types of leaves can really control how much water can escape. And the fifth factor is when the plants losing leaves in some seasons, because when plants like trees may drop their leaves in autumn, or during the dry season something happened because without leaves there's less surface for the water to evaporate, so transpiration decreases. And the sixth factor is the humidity, because when the air is already full of water vapor, we need to say it's very humid, it's really difficult, it's harder, or it's more difficult for more water to escape from the plant's leaves. So the dry air makes the transpiration happen faster. Another factor is the wind speed. Since the wind, okay, clears away the moist. Okay, again, the wind clears away the moist air near the plant. So it makes the room for more water to evaporate. So the stronger winds mean quicker transpiration. So if the winds are weak or there's lack of wind, it means that there will be slow transpiration. And lastly, the atmospheric pressure. So when we say atmospheric pressure, we're talking about like the storm, okay? So if there is the lower pressure, like in stormy weather, it really allows the water to evaporate faster. How about if it is a high pressure? If there's a high pressure, it slows the evaporation and it keeps the transpiration lower. So these factors really work together to regulate how plants lose the water, which helps them adapt to their environment. Another question that you need to explain is the overland flow. Explain why overland flow varies from place to place. We need to say you have another key term, which is the overland flow, and why this part of the hydrological cycle varies from place to place. So, overland flow is when water flows across the surface of the ground instead of soaking into the soil. So it's all about like the water moving across the surface of the land, okay? When the ground is very saturated or if the ground cannot absorb more water. So it's part of the water cycle, and it really happens after the heavy rainfall, or it can happen during the snow meltdown, or it can happen when the ground is impermeable. So meaning to say, this overland flow leads the water into streams or rivers. Again, overland flow is the movement of water on land, and it is very different from flood, because flood is when the water from the overland flow or the water from the rivers or other sources spills over and cover the areas that are usually dry. So again, having floods happens when the amount of water exceeds, okay? So there's an excessive water from the capacities of rivers, drainage system, or the land to contain it. So again, let me repeat. Overland flow is different from flood because overland flow is the movement of water on land, while a flood is the result of the excessive water covering the land, which means that overland flow can really contribute to flooding, especially if there is a very intense rain or poor drainage. The question here is, why do you think that overland flow is different from place to place? It's because it changes depending on the area. So as you can see here, I posted the factors. So it's all about how many plants or trees there are in the area, the steepness of the land, if there is a bare rock. It depends on how much it rains, how quickly water can soak into the water, the type of soil, the type of rock, how the land is used, And if there are cities with concrete, and of course, a drainage system can also make a difference.